When Agrisera is producing antibodies, we are thinking about covering, because in plant science it's a lot of model species, so we are thinking about covering quite many model species, of course, if it is possible. Especially for photosynthetic proteins, which are quite conserved, one can choose a short peptide, which will be found across hundreds of different species. And we call these antibodies global antibodies. Such situation is possible only when the short peptide is perfectly conserved. And therefore, so-called predicted reactivity of a given antibody can be established. You will find it on our product info sheets that we have confirmed reactivity and predicted reactivity, which is coming from sequence analysis. And now, how we are choosing how do I choose the right antibody for my protein? That was one of the questions I have received. Here you can see a sequence, an example of a sequence of a photosynthetic protein, PSB-A. And in this case, we have three scenarios. Look, the peptide which is used to produce this antibody can come either from N-terminal, of course, after signal peptide, or C-terminal. And these will be exposed in the native protein. So, and such antibody can be used also in native techniques. But if it comes from the buried part of some loop, it will not work in a native technique. It will work in the Western blot, in the natured conditions. And oftentimes antibodies are produced to shorter peptides. And the reason for it is that if we're targeting a protein from a family where we have a lot of isoforms, from, let's say, 1 to 10, and we want to cover only isoform 1, we need to choose the peptide which is really specific to the protein we aim to detect. In case of this photosynthetic proteins, we wanted to choose peptides which will cover multiple species. And if one is injecting, of course, a protein of certain molecular weight, such an antibody will be a pool covering quite many epitopes. So, of course, peptide antibody will cover less epitopes than an antibody to a whole protein. But there are also limitations with that, because the background signal and cross-reactivity can increase if an antibody is made to a whole protein. So it's not always an advantage. Required for so-called predicted reactivity is at least 70% linear sequence identity for an antibody to work on untested species. So please keep in mind that the success of your of your Western blot experiments starts actually with the choice of the antibody. So before you even go to the lab, your species and the antibody need to match.